Welcome to Teachers Tech. My name is Jamie and it's great to have you here. Today I'm going to show you how to use Power BI. So this is going to be a beginner's tutorial. I'm going to show you how you can take a Microsoft Excel workbook like this one with all this data and bring it into Power BI to make it look like this. And this doesn't take that long at all. And not only does it look like this is interactive. So I can click on different parts to find things specifically, maybe by a country, maybe by a product, or maybe by some time period. So you can see how interactive this is. That's what I want to show you how to create using Power BI today on Teachers Tech. If you don't have Power BI installed yet on your computer, you'll need to install the Power BI desktop. I'll put a link to this page down below in the description. Then you can go to it and then go through the install of it. I will also put a link to the Excel workbook that I'll be working through today. So check that in the description and get that on your computer. Then we're going to get ready to bring that data into Power BI. So hopefully you got Power BI installed on your computer and you went ahead and opened it and it looks like this. What we're going to be doing first is getting the data. So we're going to bring that Microsoft Excel workbook into Power BI. But I just want to point out here is the practice one that I saved. If I wanted to open that one up, I could go ahead and just click on it and it would open up. So I'm going to go ahead and click Get Data here. And what's going to happen is you're going to see all the different data types that you can bring into Power BI. Now, we're only using a Microsoft Excel workbook here today, but you can bring in all these different sources here. So you're not limited to this, and you can bring in different types and you can connect them. But this is a beginner's tutorial on Power BI. So we're going to start with the basic, just this Microsoft Excel workbook. So I'm going to go ahead, double click on this and pick the worksheet, the workbook that I want. And it's going to be this one right here, this practice set. And I'm going to hit open and it's going to just connect to that. And then it's going to ask me another question. I have to pick what sheet it's coming from. So you notice you don't see any items over here. Well, I need to select, it's going to be from the financials tab there, and then you get to see it here. Now, what I'm going to choose first though is transform the data right here. So I'm just going to select it and then it's going to bring it into this, and then we can start and you'll see it load up, and then we can start making some changes to this before we get to bringing in all the visuals that I showed you at the very beginning. The reason why I chose transform data rather than just loading it right away is I want to clean the data before I apply it to the visuals, and this will save me some time and just have things looking better when I add them. So these are the few examples that I'm going to give here to clean this data. The first thing I'm going to point out is in this units sold column, and you can see here in this cell it says 1,618.5. Well, I don't want it to be decimals because I'm not going to sell 0.5 of a product. So I'm going to select this entire column just like that by selecting this top one, and I'm going to change this. So if I go up to the transform tab up top, you can see if I drop down here, there is going to be whole number. You can see all the different options that you have, but I want whole number here. So this goes through, it will ask me to replace current, and I want that. I hit replace current, and it now you can see no decimal, all the decimals are gone out of there. I have just whole numbers. So that's a quick way to clean the numbers if you wanted it done that way. Another thing I want to be able to change is, let's say through this segment, you notice how some are all caps and some are lowercase, like enterprise or direct, except for the front one. I want to be able to make everything uppercase, so when the visuals are done, it's just easier to see. If I stay under the transform here, I can go ahead and then just move over to format. I can format everything to uppercase, and you can look at the other ways you can format too, but I'm going to go to uppercase. Now you can see I have enterprise changed, I have direct changed, and everything's uppercase. So just a couple more changes I want to clean here. I'm going to go to the bottom and scroll over to the very end. And I want to take a look at where it says month name. So in month name, I don't want to say, well, month name, I just want it to be month. You can change these column, the headers here by just double clicking in here, and you can get rid of or change them to how you want. So now I've made that change here. Okay, one last way I'm going to show you how you can clean your data is, let's say we take a look at products here. And one of these products is not selling anymore. So I don't want this included in my results because I know it doesn't need to be there because it's not being sold. I can filter this. So if I drop down and decide, well, I don't think doohickey anymore is going to be sold, or I know it's not sold anymore, so I can just select this and hit OK, and it's going to filter that out. So if I go OK, you notice doohickey is no longer in there, so I can filter the results. So now if I go through and clean like this, I can make sure what I'm going to be putting in my visualizations, it will save me time and just look a little bit better. If you take a look over to the right, you can see all the transformation that has happened, all the different steps that I did if you wanted to remove any of these. Okay, so we're almost done. We're finished cleaning up this data. I'm going to go up here where it says File, and I'm just going to go Close and apply it just like that. So now at this point, what you can do as we're working on this, you can go ahead and save this as we're working on here too. So you can go ahead and hit save and then just give it a name here. So for my case, I'm going to go and call this practice 2 because I already have one done. So that's saved on my computer. So if you take a look at the far right, you'll see fields right here. Maybe your financials are closed. You can see how we can expand it and open it up. Now, Power BI was able to look at each column and get an understanding of what's in it. So you can see that there would be amounts in these, and this one would include a date. So Power BI is able to do that. We can expand it and see what's in each of these whenever you see the expand arrow here. Now, what I want to do at this point is actually write an expression in DAX. And now this is something more advanced, but I just want to show you a couple examples of writing a measure and adding a table in here. And then you can go ahead and write exactly how I do this. So what we're going to go do first is go up to the Home tab right here, and I want you to go across into the ribbon and click on New Measure right here. And you should be able to see that it says 1 measure equals. So what we want to do is create an expression in DAX that will add up all the numbers in the units sold column. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and then you can just type exactly what I'm typing and then just hit pause on the video to make sure you got everything correct. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the variable here, the units sold, just like this. So total units sold in space and equals. Now I'm going to start the next part. And what is it I want to start with? Well, I need to sum. So as I put the S in, the capital S, notice that, and if I put the U, I can go ahead and select sum right through here. So if you're used to using Microsoft Excel, this should look familiar. So I'm going to select sum. Now it's going to say the column name. Well, this is where financials is going to come into play. So I'm going to select the financials right there. And I need to add the square bracket. So I'm just going to add a square bracket. And what is it? Well, it's going to be units sold that I want to add up or sum up. So it's going to be right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a bracket at the end to close this. So this is what I want to write, and make sure you hit pause and go through it. When you think you have it all right, just go ahead and hit this check mark right here. So if you look over at fields again, way over on the right, look down at what we just created. We created total units sold, and you can see it's a calculation that's being performed on it based on the icon. All right, let's add another expression, and this time we're going to add a new table. And if we're looking at the tabs across, just go to Table Tools here, and we have New Table. Go ahead and click on New Table, and you should see this right now where it says 1 and table equals. Let's put in our next expression. So this is the expression that we're going to be typing. So you can hit pause and type this out the way I have it written. So this is going to generate a calendar table of all dates between January 1st, 2020 and December 31st, 2021. And when you get this again, hit the check mark when it's completed. If you hit the check mark, you can see now it generates this. And if I look over at my fields at the very end, it has calendar right here and dates. Now we're not quite done. We need to make sure we connect this with our other table, and we're going to connect it through dates. So I'm going to go over here to the model. And what we see here is I'm going to make sure we have both open here. So I have two different things open. I need to build a relationship. If you've ever used Microsoft Access before, this will be familiar to you, but it's very simple what we need to do. We just need to drag to the connection over here. So the relationship is going to be between these two. And you can see now, if I hover over it, it's from the date on the calendar to the date on the financials. So at this point now, we're ready to start building our visualizations. All right, so let's move to our report tab so we can start creating our visuals now that we have everything. And if I go up, you can see we're on the model tab here. If we go to our data, this was the calendar table that we just created. If I take a look over here, if I click on financials, this will show me the financial table. So I can click back and forth to the different tables, and between these tables, there's a relationship that we built in the model. Now, this is where we're going to create our report is here. All right, let's go start by giving a title for this report. So we're going to start by adding a title to our report. And to do this, we need to add a text box. So under the Home tab, if we look, we can see text box right here in the ribbon. I'm just going to go ahead and select this. Now I can type what I want right in here. So I'm going to call this Executive Summary Finance Report. And I can make some modifications still to this. I can change the font size and the font. So if I highlight this, I could go ahead and switch if I wanted it to a different one like that. I can make it larger. I'll make this a 20 font, and I can make it bold. So I can do all these different things to it. You can see from alignment to inserting a link. But right now, I'm just going to leave it as there. Now, the other thing I want to change, if I click off it, you can see how it is. I want to be able to stretch this out. So I'm going to move it like this, so just so it fits, and I'm going to move this bottom of the box up. So now I have my title of the report. Let's get ready to add some visuals here. We can add visuals a few different ways. So if I just go up to where I was before, beside the text box, you can see add a visual to report. Just select it and you get a placeholder here that you can drag the fields into to get your graph started. Now I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. So at any time, if you select it, you can hit delete and it will be gone. And I'm going to go ahead and just move over to the visualizations over here. You can see I can go and select one from here and it will appear again. I'm going to just drag this closer here so you can see the changes a little bit easier without much movement. Now I need to add some fields to this. I can do this again in a couple different ways, drag or select. A lot of times I'll just select. So if I just select right here, so far there's here. You don't see anything populated yet. So let's go and put profit. I could just click profit if I wanted to go in, or I could drag it over and drop it. So by default, you're in Power BI, you're going to get this graph here, but it's pretty easy to change these too. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'll just show you, you can size this here. So if I wanted it to be a little larger, and if I wanted to move things, again, just simply grab the top and start moving it around. Now I'm going to make a change to the x-axis here. I'm going to drop down on this right here. So just drop down. And I'm going to choose date. So when I choose date, now all of a sudden it puts it into this format. So Power BI went through and now it's pulling it in month by month. And it's really easy to change your different type of charts that you want. So if I wanted a line chart, go ahead and select it and it gets changed like that. So you can try a few different ones depending what you want. I'm going to leave this for this example. And when we come back to it, I'm going to show you how to format it later once we put a few more visuals in it to make everything look nice. But that will be at the end once we put in our different visuals. So the next visualization that I want to place in this report is one of the map. Make sure that you're not selected on one when you go to insert your next one, or else it will just get replaced. So I'm going to go to this right here. right above slicer where it says map, and I'm selecting this. So I get the map over here. I'm just going to move it over here. And now at this point, you might get an error if you try to actually put things into it if you don't have your security on your Power BI set the correct way. If you do get that error, this is what you do. You go up to File, you get to Options and Settings, go to Options, and then at this point, when the next window opens up, go to Security and make sure that this is checked off. When I first did this the first time, this wasn't. I had to make sure that that was set. So I'm going to hit OK. So now I have this selected right here. I can drag or select what I want. I can take this country here and just bring it in here, because in my data, I have a list of one column that's full of different countries. I'm going to make this a little larger. And when I pull that in, right away, it identifies the countries that are in it. But I want to add profit to this too. So I'm just going to go ahead and click profit, just like that. And now you can see that the circles have changed a little bit. But watch how interactive this is already. So if I click this, my sum of profit by date is changing up here based on what I'm selecting over here. So you get to see how interactive this data is when you start putting it into Power BI into these reports. Okay, so we have two different visualizations. Let's add a third. I'm just going to make a quick move of this map one here. I'll put it over here for now. I'm going to click off to make sure I'm not changing the map one, and I'm going to add this one, a clustered column, and I'm going to add to it, I'm going to put my sales, I'm going to put my product, and I'm going to put my segments in it like this. So now it's a little hard to see, but so I'm going to just stretch it across, give it some more room here. Just like this, we'll go all the way across. So now you can see from, if I look at Thingamajig, I can break it down by the different segments, whether it be direct, enterprise, business to business, business to consumer, all these different things. And again, if I click on one of these are interactive also. If I click twice, it turns it off. So we can make the adjustment no matter what we click on, all three visuals are connected here. So now we're going to add in a couple extra slicer to be able to even go further to break down the dates of each of the products and sales of everything. So I moved some things around here, just moved it over to the left so I have some space right here. And this is where I'm going to put my slicer. And the slicer will help me filter things even more. And I mentioned it's going to be by date. So I can select in different order. I could go ahead and just select date up here because I know this is what I'm going to be looking for. So if I select date, you can see I have this information that comes in right away. I'm just going to drag this up. Now I want this to be a slicer. Well, I can go and click slicer now. So if I go select slicer, I get this information here. Now I can change what fields I want in this too, because if I drop down, notice that there's quarter 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't want all that information. So if I look under the fields here, I can go ahead and take away. So if I don't want quarter and I don't want day, so now if I drop down, it should just be by month. I can stretch this out. I want this to be the same length here. So then if I was looking through different ones, if I just clicked on 2021, you can see the changes. I can start clicking off on different months. I believe on the data, the first sales weren't until September here, so there won't be anything up to this point. But you can see as you click on how everything is adjusting. So I'm starting to get a snapshot. I can be looking by the segment. I could be looking by the country. I could be looking by the sum of the profit. There's so many different things. I could be looking at the product. So many different ways you can easily get that quick visualization. So we have a number of different visualizations from slicers to charts in here in the map. Let's go ahead and make everything look a little nicer here. Do some customization of this. The first thing I want to do is make sure everything's lined up the way I want. And if you click on any of these and start dragging them around, you can see that we get the red line allows me to know if things are lined up. So if I want to make sure everything is lined up, just see that connect just like that, then I know that one's lined up. I want to bring this one down to match that line at the top. So right there. And some of these maybe I'll move over after I get more done. So I think that is lined up on that side. and this is lined up on this side. Now you can go ahead and move things the way you want. I can see this one's a little bit off down here. So I'm just going to drag that. Okay, so now we've aligned things just by dragging them around. If you want it to look a little different, go ahead and make things, if you wanted to flip where you put things, go ahead and do that. Now, what we're going to do is starting by changing, we're going to add a color to the back here behind here. So I'm going to put kind of a bar and it'll be a different color here. So what I'm going to do is go up to insert here, and I'm going to insert a shape. So I'm just going to move over into the ribbon. You can see there's shape here, and I'm just going to put a rectangle in. So here's the rectangle, and I'm not worried about colors yet. I can modify these. I can change the shape. I can drag it. So I want this is going to go across the top, just like that. So I'm dragging it across. I want it to go the whole way just to kind of add a border up top. Now, with this, I want to make sure that it's blocking the title, so I want to send this to back. So how do I do this? Well, I'm going to go up to Format right here, and when I go to Format, you can see I have some choices: bring forward, send back. If I drop down, you can see send backwards, send back. I can click on it, and now if I click off of it, because if I just click off of it and click somewhere else, you can see now that how this is not transparent, this white. So this is in the back, that's what I want. Well, how can I change this? So at this point right here, what I want to do is go ahead and change the background on there. So I'm going to go ahead and find that under Effects, and see I have Background. And I'm going to go and bring transparency to 100%. So I'm just going to bring this over, and now this becomes see-through. I also want to turn this to a white font. So I'm just going to go ahead, select everything, drop down here and select white. So I've made a couple changes here. I'm just going to click off, see what I have. Maybe I want this to be a little larger font here too. So I'm going to drop down, bring it up to 28. Now I have to bring this a little larger. So that's starting to look how I might want to create this report. So I'm going to go around and make changes to each of these visuals. So what I'm going to do with the map is I want to change the title here, and I want it to be a different color of the map actually too. So I'm going to make sure I have this selected. And as I look over in visualizations this time, I'm going to change the format your visual here. And what do I want to have changed? Well, let's start with the title. The title is going to be under General. And you can see all the different things that you can modify here, but I'm going to go to Title here, and I don't want the sum of. I'm going to delete this just like that, and right away I have Profit by Title. And I want all my my titles to be the same. I'm going to go and just change the font here to each one. We'll go with the same one that I had up here, which was Tahoma. So as I go back here, I want to find Tahoma here, right there. And I'm going to make this a little larger, and I want this bold. So there's my first one. Now I'm going to go to my visual here and go to Map Settings. And I don't want the style to be road. I'm going to drop down, and I want it to be grayscale, just like that. So it changes. I like it because the countries kind of pop out a little bit more like that. Now, again, I'm not changing everything on all the different visuals. I just wanted to point out where you would change. So if you look through the different drop downs, even under General, how you might want to be, even do where you want things. I want to keep this to the left here, but take a look at different effects that you can have and everything. So let's move on to our next one right here. Oh, actually, you know what? I want to add one more here too. So I'm going to go to Shadow since I have it open. I like the look of Shadow, and I'm going to select Shadow. And you can see how it kind of gives that visual of that shadow around. And I'm going to do the same thing to each of these visuals here. All right, so I'm going to select Sum of Profit now on this next one. And I want to make sure that I'm going to start with my title. I don't want it to be Sum of Profit. I'm just going to get rid of that sum. Profit by date. And again, what was my font going to be? Well, it's going to be Tahoma. And there it is. And I'm going to increase the size. I want it to be bold so that I get things similar. I'm going to leave the color for this now the same. And then if I go through, I want to add the shadow to this. So I'm going to select shadow. I'm going to just size things. I need to give it a little bit more space in between just so it looks a little bit better here. Again, you do what works well for you. So I have a couple visuals. I'm fine with date and sum of profit on the side. I don't want that. And if I wanted to change this y-axis, maybe I just want to say profit, I would need to go back to here. And I'm just going to select this and take a look where it says sum of profit. That's what's showing up there. So if I double click in here, I can edit it through this point and I could just say profit. So if I click off, now it makes those changes. So remember, we do have different labels here. If I don't want, you can see it where it says date on it. I'm going to leave it as there, but if you wanted it as something else, you could make that change there. Let's go down to this one, make some quick changes of those to make them all the same. So I select this graphic here. I'm going to go back to Format Visual. I'm going to go to General and make sure get rid of this sum of and change my font that I have back to Tahoma in 16 and bold. So that's looking the same here. And quickly add the shadow. I'll scroll down, turn the shadow on. And things are looking okay lined up here. Again, you change it how you want different ones to look. Play with all the different ways. So now I'm going to add another shape to the background behind these two right here. So I'm going to go back to Insert and go to my shapes like I showed you before. And we're going to do square again. And I'm going to be putting this in the background. There's going to be a little bit of room between the different ones, and it's going to be a different color. So I'm going to stretch it to the size just to here, and I can manipulate it more after. And what I want you to do is under shape, if I wanted a different color, drop down and look for style. So under style, you can see where this blue is. I'm going to turn this to more of a gray here. So I'm going to choose maybe this one right here. And again, I can still change it after. And if you wanted it to have rounded corners, you could do that if you wanted to. If you want a rounded rectangle. So you go and pick what, again, what looks best for you. I need to send this to the back now. And do you remember how we did that before? That was under Format up top in the tab. So if I go to Format, I'm going to drop down and go Send to Back. Now, when I do that, I can click off somewhere and you can see it's kind of gray in it. Now I'm going to line things up a little bit better. Oops, make sure you grab the top here. And I'm going to bring this in a little bit. I'm going to size this one here. Just turned off all the data there. I'll turn that one off and I'm going to move this one just like that. So I'm going to stretch this one up, align it up. And I kind of like how things are on that gray here. Now, you can change things, keep adding things more. I just wanted to show you how to add some shapes and how to adjust each of the visuals that you did. But a really easy way to make some changes would be to do this after. Go up to View. And now you can make some really quick pages. So if I drop down, you can see all the different ones. But if I select different ones, look how fast that change was made through it. So just click on different ones. You might find a different color that you might like on this. So find something that you like, drop down, try some different ones. Try the dark one like this. I don't like the way the color, I'm not going to change the color on it, but I don't mind the dark background. So find one, just keep changing it around until you like one. Now, what do you do with this data? How do you share this with people? Let me show some different ways. So you've done all this work on Power BI, you've created this stunning report. How do you share it with people? Well, first of all, make sure you kept saving this as you went along. You don't want anything to crash and lose all this work that you've put into this report. But if we go up to File up here, I want to point out a few different things. Now, going to Export here, you notice that we have Power BI template and export as a PDF. Power BI template will export this to a file with the data with this, and then you could give that data to somebody else. It'll be a folder with the data, and then they could open it up. It'll be interactive. So you'd have to share that file with them somehow, and they'd have to have Power BI to open that up. You could export this as a PDF, but it's not going to be interactive. It'll just be something maybe you want to print off to show your report on it that way. A different way you could do this too is go to publish here. So if you go to publish and publish to Power BI, you need to make sure you have a login for this. You can actually sign up for a free trial, but let's say if you're within an organization that's using this, you could share it with your boss or coworkers, and then it would be completely interactive too as they open it up here too. So depending on which way that you want to try it, test out a few different ways, maybe try that free trial account to see how it works for you. So I hope you liked this walkthrough of Power BI, this beginner one, just kind of showing you the basics of how it works from an Excel workbook. Let me know what else you might want to learn in Power BI, and maybe I can create some more tutorials on it. Thanks for watching this week on Teacher's Tech. I'll see you next time with more tech tips and tutorials.